like I've had some different like levels of falling back in love in wrestling. Like one of the times I remember was man, when it was 2018 or the end of 2017 going into 2018. I remember there was one time I was just warming up and I was like, I don't even want to practice today. Like I don't want to be here or whatever. So I took a couple weeks off and was like, all right, I want every day to just be having fun. I put it in my journal every day. Like the goal today is to have fun. Today, let's just have fun. And that was like one of the biggest dives back into wrestling and feeling that passion again. And just like, yes, I love this. This is what I want to do. This is me. This is, what I'm supposed to be doing right now. So I definitely marked 2017 in my calendar as a big falling in love moment as well.
And it sounds like shortly before that, I don't know if falling out of love is the right word, but losing a little bit of steam maybe for the sport. Why do you think that was? Was it too intense or too much of a grind or not having enough fun or I don't know, can you put your finger on what led to you saying I need a little bit of time away and then like maybe reassess how you approach the sport?
Yeah, I think at that point, like all I had was wrestling. Like I was living at the OTC. Yeah, I was already graduated out of school, so wasn't doing any school. I wasn't around. I think at the time he was my fiance, so I wasn't around my fiance, or I've been married at that point. Not sure, but I wasn't
Okay.
around him. So, and I was kind of felt isolated, and it was just like every day it's wrestling, wrestling, go lift, wrestling, wrestling. All right, now you have the weekend off. What are you doing on the weekend? I'm sitting in my room because I'm too tired. So I didn't have a lot else going on, around that. Um, which is not to say like once I did start falling back in love, I still, didn't have a lot. Still, you know, still wasn't around my husband, but I just had to make a decision like, do I love this or not? It's like, no, I love it. Maybe I'm just not coming in with the right mindset. And it was just, I guess, a mindset change really was all I needed. Um, I think that was just really important was just coming in with a grateful mindset rather than I have to do this. I have to go to practice. I have to go to lift, etc.
Yeah, it's crazy how, and I think you nailed it, right? It's a mindset. How like you
Oh
can
yeah.
look at it like this is crappy, this is tough, this is no fun, and however everybody's different, but however you like shift that mind shift, how do you ever you shift that into like no, actually, I do. It's like same thing, but a different outlook can like make the world a difference. So I think that's pretty cool. And I guess to from college to the OTC, when you said around your senior year you decided you really loved it. Senior year of high school, I think is what you're saying. You really fell in love with it and wanted to do it in college. Then at what point did you say realize you could pursue this beyond college and chase the senior level dream and world championships and Olympics?
Yeah, starting my sophomore year of college, like I started really just putting myself all out there. Like, I've always worked hard, in the room. I've always, gone to weights and, done strength and conditioning or whatever. But sophomore year is just coming in with an intention that I'm going to win things. And that's when I made my junior world team was at the end of my sophomore year. Started going to world team trials, kept placing fourth, just right below national team. But that's when I started seeing like, yeah, I've got more. I've got even more after college. So even like at the end of my senior year of college, I was actually starting to look at McKendree just because like to be a GA or an assistant coach and to train there, it's still close to home. Um, and I still wanted that team aspect. But I actually ended up hurting my back pretty bad, like right after Olympic trials, herniated a disc and was off the mat for like 7 months. And that really changed my mind because I was like, I need to be somewhere where I'm going to be taken care of. I need, medical experts. I need to make sure I got a good strength conditioning coach. I need people monitoring me, make sure like if this happens again or if we can prevent this from happening again, like 7 months on the mat it's a lot of time to be off the mat and could hurt your career. So I just wanted to make sure I was going to be in good hands. So that's why I decided to go to OTC after college.
Man, 7 months off the mat. We're talking about mindset and like mental shifts. Like, what is 7 months off the mat? Does it make you more hungry to get on? Is it just make you more depressed? Isn't the right word, but like unexcited? I don't know. Somewhere in between.
Well, a little mix. There's definitely a little bit of depression because, like, not only did I not make the Olympic team, but then it's like I'm watching, the Olympics at home, and I'm just, watching my laptop, and I'm laying on the floor because I can't even like sit in a chair like without hurting my back. So I'm just laying on the floor watching my laptop, and it's like, man, like I can't even like walk upstairs and carry a laundry basket, and these people are out there going at it, going for an Olympic medal. So it was a little depressing on that side, but it was also like I was very hungry. I did whatever I could, which unfortunately, because no one was really monitoring, because I was back at home at that point. Uh, Sometimes I pushed myself a little too hard and might have pushed myself a little back, but I, was doing what I could. I was doing rehab. We eventually had to do surgery because it just was not healing. Might have been my own fault. Might have just because the herniation was so bad to begin with. But got surgery. Really did everything could to rehab and get on the mat. And when I got out to the OTC in that January of 2017, I was hungry. Like I was excited. I was excited to train, excited to get back on the mat. It was, yeah. It's the 7 months was not fun, but it helped. It
Yeah.
helped put me in a good place come January
Yeah, it'll give you perspective, no doubt.
for
I
sure.
guess to the point of the Olympics, there was that year, but moving backwards from there, who do you like first remember having eyes on as a senior level wrestler, a women's freestyle that somebody may have caught your eye, whether it's the Olympics or the World Championships or elsewhere?
I'm not sure because I wasn't really well versed. Like, I mean, I know who was who, but I wasn't like watching. Like when I said earlier, like not video studying is
Right.
not for everybody. Like when I was growing up, it was not for me. Like I was just,
Gotcha.
and I wasn't interested. It probably would have helped. I just wasn't interested in watching video. But I remember having like my sights, set on those kind of top three women. It was Iris Smith, Jackie Serber, and Adeline Gray at my weight, and like I even had like a little checklist in my locker at the time. And I remember when I beat Iris Smith at the U.S. Open, checked her off. I also had Anastasia Lobsinger on there because she'd beat me. Um, Shoot, it was Junior World Team Trials of freshman year, so I had her on there. Had her checked after Olympic trials. Checked off Jackie Serber. Didn't get to quite check off Adeline at that point, but yeah, I had my sights kind of set on those three, just domestically, because that's was kind of my first step. I was like, all right, got to beat these people if I'm going to get anywhere.
Yeah. What does it feel like to make a list and then actually start checking people off, right? It's like it's one thing to just put it up there and be like these women are good. But then to be like line through this name, line through like it's basically setting a goal and accomplishing it. Like how does that feel?
So satisfying, especially because like I said, I was, always falling behind national team in the couple world team trials leading into 2016. So it's just like, man, finally beat these people. I'd wrestled Iris before and lost to her, face to face. I'd lost to Jackie at the U.S. Open, I think in 2015, like that December 2015. And to come back and just, it was so good to come back to Linwood and just, go in the locker room and just, but yeah, I probably should do that again. That was just really nice to you have your sights set, see that name every day and it's not going to sneak up on you. You know, every day that's who you got to beat.
Yeah, I bet.
How does it change when, I mean, at that point you're like, okay, I've got all these names in front of me. How has it changed for you now that you've been the one competing for medals at the World Championships? Now that you've kind of assumed that role as one of the top dogs in the country.
Yeah. Well, I think first off, like since I've graduated, I've definitely been in that transition from a performance mindset to the growth mindset because, it's not always on your control. Like, yeah, I can train 110%. I can do everything right. But if everybody else is doing everything right, like sometimes you're going to fall short. And to have, everything set, your whole heart set in this, performance, like sometimes it can be detrimental. So I feel like now more so I have these growth mindsets. It's like, all right, let's take more shots in a match, maybe hit your knee once in a match, just like little things or even one year I was like, all right, I want to read 12 books this year. Like, that's a book a month. I can handle
Yeah.
that. But, just growing some way, making sure I'm improving. It might not be visible to everybody else in the world, which sometimes it's hard because it's like, yeah, that's, your check mark. That's how you know you're getting better. But if you have these other growth mindsets, like, all right, I want to make sure I'm doing yoga twice a week and making sure I'm taking care of my body, or I want to hit 150 minutes in the sauna this week. Those are check marks I can still see, but they're 100% in my control.
Sure. Um, I just had a brain fart. But oh, I know I was gonna ask like as far as getting better at wrestling, right? There's like going in the room and working on what you need to work on, and then there's like some people say outside of the room, I check out and I don't think about wrestling. Some people say outside of the room, like I can't get wrestling off my mind, right? Are you on either extreme or are you somewhere in the middle?
I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I try to spend some time, going over some notes or, just reflecting on the practice. Like if I have like a lot of late night practices, they get done at like 8 p.m. So about 9 p.m. after I'm showered and had some dinner, right? Like let's reflect. What did I learn today? How did things feel? What do I need to work on next time? So it's not just, completely turning my brain off, but it's also like bringing my brain down so I can go to bed and not be amped up all day. I also do like to include some visualization. I've been including more visualization lately just because it is such a good way to get reps without
Yeah.
putting a strain on your body. And it's such a confidence builder because it's like, man, if I do the rep in my brain every time, I'm going to get that shot. So it's just like, yeah, I can get this shot, and then hopefully we'll apply in a match that confidence. So
Yeah.
yeah, brain's not quite turned off, but also not just like, I got to
Yeah.
wrestle and be, crazed all day. No, I feel like that'd wear me out.
You can sit back and relax. That's good.
Yeah.
Next question is kind of like looking back and looking forward. I guess 2020 came and went, and then we were supposed to do it, and then we didn't do it. What was it like getting the news that like the trials is pushed, the Olympics is pushed for a year, and then I guess follow up would be like, how's that helped you?
Yeah, I think this pandemic in general has been a real good time for me to like take a step back and it's like, man, I probably wasn't ready. Like I wasn't mentally or physically ready for trials. I was already, I feel like I was counting myself out because like when trials was pushed back and the Olympics were canceled, I was kind of like, thank God, like I get another chance now. Like I can, fix things up. I can, like I've made the weight class change. I think that's been huge for my mental and physical health. And I feel much more fired up about trials this year. I felt like last year was just like, let's get this done. Like let's go. I feel like I'm not gonna win it, like whatever. Now I'm like, yeah, I've got a chance and I cannot wait for trials. So I think it's been really big for me. And it's almost painful to say that because it's like, man, like everybody else was upset because they were ready and they were excited for everything. But like I was not in that mindset. I felt like going into it. So definitely have had time to reflect and, readjust that mindset and definitely in a better place now.
Sure. And moving up to 76, obviously, um, Adeline's done great things over there over the last, quite a while. We all know what she's done. Does seeing Tamara beat her give you any boost in confidence, or maybe there is a blueprint to a way around through whatever you want to say it to beating this woman?
For sure. I mean, like, I was a little bummed when I heard about their matchup because I was like, man, I wanted to be her first domestic loss in however many years. But we'll give it to Tamara. That's fine. Congrats to Tamara on that. But yeah, it is just a little bit, I think, helps me mentally because it's like, all right, she is not this, perfect, undefeatable person. Like, she can lose a domestic match. So I think that's helped me a little bit, in my confidence. Of course, I'm looking over the video and, taking notes, whatever. But, me and Mensa wrestle very differently. So our match will not look the same. But, I'm sure there's definitely takeaways from her match that I can apply, to my strategy going forward.
Sure. And then looking ahead in the short term to the Captain's Cup, what excites you, either individual matchups or teams, or just in general, maybe? What excites you the most about the Captain's Cup?
Mm. I mean, first of all, like I said earlier, like I'm excited for the team aspect. I am ready to scream my lungs out for all my teammates. I miss doing that, from that college years and for World Cup, just getting real excited for your teammates. I'm very excited to get my hands, hopefully I get to wrestle Diamond and Precious again and, the other 76s. I'm very excited about that. Hopefully to get that win back from Diamond and, put the hurt on Precious again. But definitely excited for that. I'm excited for the camp afterwards, just a chance to train with, the women. Haven't been to a national team camp for a hot sec, so be excited to, once everything's over, get to train and, prove and kind of have that camaraderie with my team, with the other teams. So I'm excited for the whole event in general, I guess.
Yeah, me too. Very much so. Okay, last thing, it's a little segment we like to do with our guests when they come on. It's a two-part question. Okay. And looking
Okay.
back over your career, it can be against men or women or what, you can pick any two matches you want. But from the time you started till the last time you wrestled, is there like a win that stands out? You can call it your best win, or it can just be a memorable win. It doesn't have to be the best, right? But one win that really sticks out. And like on the flip side, not as fun of a conversation, but people typically give it to us. A loss where you just got beat up and like you're just never going to forget it. And it was like, God, The good and the ugly, right? Is there? Can you think of a win that stands out and a loss that stands out?
Yeah, so when that stands out, I'm gonna have to say when I beat Olivia Fisk at Final X 2019. Um, I'm sure people have seen the clip, but like when I pinned her, I just screamed or howled or whatever noise came out of my mouth. But it wasn't just like I beat you, but I beat that year. Like that year leading in was when I was under that USADA sanction. I couldn't, train, couldn't compete. It was just a really hard, very isolated year, a lot of mental, struggles. And it was just like, yes, I accomplished this year. Like I came out on top. And I remember like getting off the mat and finally getting back to my coaches and just kind of like collapsing to a hug and crying because it was just like, I did it. Like, yes. So that just when really sticks out in my mind just because of everything that went in before it.
Sure.
And then a loss that sticks out was, like I said earlier, I lost to Anastasia Laubsinger my freshman year of college. I lost to her twice. I lost to her at the Open and then lost to her at Body Bar. And the first one definitely stung, but the second one just stung even more. And it really just set me off. Like that whole summer, like anytime I was doing conditioning, lifting, whatever, I just imagined she was next to me, sprinting up the hill and I'm going to beat you up the hill. Like, or I'm, in this back squat and I'm going to come up faster than you are. So it's just, it really set me off. So then when I wrestled her again, like the next year, I'm pretty sure I pinned or tacked her, I can't remember, but it's just like, all right, yeah, got you back. But that loss really sticks in my mind because it just, it ignited such a fire in me.
It's always cool to hear about, we don't like to hear about losses, but in this context we do. And it's really nice to hear that this is one that just like motivated you and that's cool. Yeah. Hey, she's right next to me sprinting up this hill and I'm going to get her. And you did. So a great cap to that story too. We want you to stick around for just a moment, Victoria. We're going to bring our next guest on. It's Cyon Williams, current Flow employee, wrestled at Iowa State in the back of the studio here. We got him on camera. And Cyon, we got Victoria Francis, 2019 World Team member, on the line. And I think you both know about this. We're going to do the overlapping question. We're going to give you each an opportunity to ask the other one a question and answer. And since we're finishing up with you, Victoria, we'll give you the opportunity to go ahead and ask whatever you'd like of Mr. Cyon Williams.
Cyon, so Bader was telling me that you were accepted and you were a student at Iowa State, but you thought you were going to Iowa University. How long did it take you, and what was your big giveaway that you were not at Iowa University like you thought?
I found out. I found out pretty quick because I was I was doing the tour, the campus tour, like that first day. And that I kept seeing Cy around, and that's when I figured it out. Well, I didn't figure it out. I asked the people, why is this Cy bird around?
But it sounds like it worked out for you. You like being there at Iowa State?
Iowa State was the best, Things they say things the wind blows you in the direction you need to go. I needed to be there, I don't think I would have been a good Hawkeye. Well, I wasn't a good wrestler, so I definitely wouldn't, But there was other reasons why I was blown towards Iowa State.
Fantastic.
Right.
All right, Cyon. Do you have a question for Victoria?
The Captain's Cup coming up, it's a great opportunity. Do you think this is the future for men's and women, the team atmosphere with doing dual meets like this? Do you think that's the future for the sport?
Absolutely. I think this is going to be a huge just stepping stone in the right direction. We always kind of talk about having leagues or, doing these, professional events that, it's not a qualifier. It's not, ranking. It's just like, hey, we're just going out there and scrapping and, there's a team title on the line. And I feel like that helps really bring even more fans to it because it's like, oh, I don't have to just cheer for this wrestler. I'm excited about one wrestler. It's like, no, I'm excited about that one or two wrestlers on the team. So I'm cheering on the whole team. So I think it's really exciting format of an event, and I really hope we can see more in the future, men's or women's. But it's definitely a good stepping stone for women's wrestling in general, having an all-women's event. If you're interested in this event, you're watching women's wrestling, and especially right now where there's not a lot of wrestling going on, I hope people are hungry and, excited to watch this event, whether they're interested in women's wrestling or wrestling in general.
I couldn't agree more, Victoria. I'm very excited. And it goes down again this 2 weeks from just this past weekend, February 13th and 14th. You can check it out right here on Flow. And thank you to Victoria and we'll call it Team Young Guns, but to be determined. But
Temporary. We'll say
title.
temp name.
Working title. Yeah, we're looking forward to you guys out seeing you in Iowa. Any parting words before we let you get on with your day, Victoria?
No, just thank you so much for having me on. It was a delight to talk to y'all, and I'm excited to be out there and scrap a couple weeks, or less than 2 weeks now.
Yeah, right around the corner. Thanks so much. We'll see you out there.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank
All right,
you.
Thanks. Thank you. All right, as we finish up with Victoria, we move on to Cyon Williams. An enigma in and of himself, a staple. How long have you been at Flow? Cyon, 3, 4, 5? I don't even know.
No, it's 5 years and about 6 months now.
5 years and 6 months. Okay, let's back up though, and we'll get to your coming to Flow. But I kind of know your story, but I've never really sat down and asked it to you. You grew up in Jamaica, right?
Partially, Jamaica and New York City.
How long were you in New York, and when did you move to? Excuse me. How long were you in Jamaica? When and why did you guys move to New York?
Well, I was in Jamaica, like the first time I came to New York, I was 8 years old. My mother was actually she left for Canada before she came to the U.S. She had a visa for Canada, and then her visa expired in Canada, and 3 days before she's supposed to be deported, she snuck into the U.S. She's legal now, so y'all ICE can't go and get her. So yes, let's clarify that. She's an American citizen now, so she snuck into the U.S. and ended up marrying my stepdad. They've been married for a long time now.
So did you go to Canada, or were you in New York when she went to Canada?
No, she went to Canada. She left from Jamaica to Canada.
She left you in Jamaica?
Yeah. Well, me and my siblings stayed in Jamaica with family, like different family members. Yeah. And then once she came to the U.S., she didn't really have that convenience. We lived in Brooklyn for a little while there. There was like a little 2-bedroom apartment, and I think there was like 14 of us in that 2-bedroom apartment. Yeah, it was crowded.
Wow. What?
Yeah.
Come on, you're making this up.
I'm not making that up.
14 of you in a 2-bedroom apartment, sleeping on top of each other on the floor, wherever. You had bunk beds or whatever you needed?
Well, the living room, we had I know me and my brother's bed was in the living room. It was like one of those pull-out couches, one of those couches.
Yep.
Like, in the day it's a couch. And
folds up into the wall?
No, it was like a pull-out couch. So me and my brother stayed on one bed, and my 2 sisters slept on the other bed. So the four of us actually stayed in the living room. And then in the days, you rolled the bed under, made it back up, and it was a couch.
Dang.
So, you look back, back then I thought, man, this sucks, but it's the best time of your life. It allowed you to bond with your siblings, and even though we're all on top of each other, the house never just seemed crowded. It just seemed like there was plenty of space.
Cyon, I'm curious about a couple things. One, when you were in Jamaica, kind of waiting for your mom to figure out what was going to happen, how aware were you of like the immigration status and all that kind of stuff? And well, maybe that's it. That's enough. How aware were you as a kid, and how long were you in Jamaica while your mom was figuring out the immigration stuff?
I didn't even really think about it much, because in Jamaica you hear, I think like back then anyway, you think like America is like the streets are filled with gold. So, you always hear America, America, America. In Jamaica, your parents whoop you, and your teachers whoop you in school, and you're misbehaving, and you go home, your grandparents will whoop you after you go home and tell them. So we always used to hear in America, they can't beat you. So like I was excited about that part, not being able to get whooped no more. As for immigration, I wasn't really aware of it until I think my mom was in the U.S. for about 5 years before she finally was able to send for us. And then my aunt would take us to the immigration office in Kingston. So we used to head up there about 4 a.m, sit there all day, and hopefully they'll call you up to get an interview. And I think we did that for probably 2 months straight before we were finally able to come to the U.S.
Wow.
And back then, and I think we were sitting in that embassy every day, and I think that's the first time I really saw Michael Jackson, because the only thing they played on that TV was a Charlie Chaplin movie where he stuck his head in the lion's mouth, Michael Jackson's Thriller, and I think it was whoever, that Burning Cross, is that Madonna? I don't know. One of those singers.
But there was a Madonna video with Burning Crosses.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was that one. But that's the only time we used to get to watch TV. because in Jamaica we
Like
didn't
a
have
prayer.
light. We didn't have lights or running water in our house, so we
Really?
didn't have a TV.
Do you have an outhouse?
We had an outhouse.
My dad had an outhouse growing
Yeah,
up.
we had an outhouse. Collected rainwater. The simple life. I remember I look back now like, man, lucky we didn't end up with malaria or something, but like you collect the rainwater and the drums were sitting like it's just you put the drums right to the side of the house.
Yep.
And you look in there and it was like just mosquitoes, larvae in that water, which was just a normal thing. Just move them aside and keep drinking water. It's like, man, I go back out there and some places are still like that. I'm like, man, that's pretty bad there.
You got like probably really strong insides now though. For all those years of drinking the dirty water, you've built up.
It wasn't
immunity.
dirty. It was clean. It just had the larvae in there.
Well, you just said it had
Larvae
mosquitoes in there.
makes
Yeah,
it dirty, I
mosquito
think.
larvae. They was still the water was clean.
No,
I mean, our definitions of clean are
Hey,
a little bit different. But
yeah.
that's okay. Okay, you're in Brooklyn. You've moved over. There's 14 of you. You're sleeping on the couch with your brother, and your sisters are on the other couch. I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old. How long were you in Brooklyn or New York? And
We were in Brooklyn, and then we moved back, went back to Jamaica for a little, went back in, and then we moved to the Bronx, and then we moved around. I think we moved like almost every year I was in this country, like up until I think it was like the 10th grade. My mom they bought a house in the Bronx. She was able to talk to a lot of her friends. She saved up some money, and I think it was like back then. I think like about 26 people helped her co-sign for the loan.
holy smokes.
Yeah, so we bought it was a 3-floor house, and then the first and second floors rented out, and then they stayed on the 3rd floor, and then me and my brother was able to take the basement. We had our own little space, so it was they did well.
Cozy.
My mom worked hard
Yeah.
for a lady that she never graduated high school. She struggling got us through. She made sure that all her kids had all they need, make sure we had a good life.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Okay, so when did you first see a wrestling mat or get introduced wrestling, or when you heard it, did you think there was gonna be turnbuckles and Hulk Hogan and I don't know, how'd you wrestling come into your life?
The first time I heard about wrestling was like sophomore year of high school, and I had some class with some of my buddies, and they were like, "Hey, why don't you come out for the wrestling team?" And I was thinking turnbuckles and everything, and coming off the top rope. I'm like, "Hey, that'd be cool." But then it just never worked out, and I never went to practice. Then my junior year, when I was like, I might actually go to college. I probably need some sports on my my application. So I went down there to the wrestling team, to the room, and then they had to roll out this mat. It was a 3-piece, heavy ass mat. Pardon my language, heavy mat. And then I was like, okay. And then I see we start practice. The first thing our coach, Steve Crowley, he goes, I look. And then they go in the referee's position. I'm like, all right, nah, that sucks. That's out. Not interested. Then I was like, I thought my buddy's like, stop being a punk and come on back to practice. Like, all right. So I went back to practice and I was pretty decent. I went out there for my first match. I think I got pinned. Yeah, the first match junior year, I got pinned against I think it was a kid from either Lehman High School or Truman High School. I ended up beating them both after that later on, but yeah. And then I was like, okay, I'm pretty decent. Then the next year, we have over 6,000 kids in our high school, and we had we had 6 kids on our team for all the weight, and 3 of us was in the same weight class.
Well, that's good workout partners.
So it was like all of us was at the 190 weight class. And then 2 of us was at 190. One guy was at 215 in heavyweight. And then they go, the 190 goes, well, Cyon, you want to wrestle 215? Like, well, I'm the better guy. Why don't I get to keep the weight class? Like, why don't he go up? And coach was like, well, Cyon, you're better, so you should go up and wrestle the heavier guys. Like, all right. So I went up to 215, started wrestling. And then we'd have matches where, there's no 190 for the other school. There's no 215 for the other school, so I'd be like, "All right, I get a forfeit." Coach would be like, "Hey, Cyon, I need you to go down to 190." Wait,
down.
And then the guy that's regularly taking all the other forfeits at that weight class would go up and take my forfeit, and I had to go out there and wrestle.
Well, he's giving you an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to help.
Yeah. Coach was good to us. His name was Steve Crowley. He didn't even work in our school. He worked in another school. Then he used to drive way across the town. I think his son now actually wrestles at Binghamton.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What was it about wrestling that you liked, right? You came in expecting to see turnbuckles and this and that, and you're like, oh, I'll roll up three heavy big pieces of mat. I'm cool. Let's do it. Top, bottom, pace, I'm out. Nope. You came back, and obviously you went on to...
Our team was pretty... It was more of a team atmosphere. It's more like a family. Even though there wasn't a lot of us on the team, it was like... We came pretty close. I still talk to some of those guys. Actually, last year when we was out at Beat the Streets in 2019, a bunch of us met up with Coach. We met up with the coach, and we all went out to dinner downtown right before Beat the Streets. But it was like, it was the start of like when I first did it. I was like, you know what? I didn't think it'll lead me anywhere, but it's actually shaped my whole future.
Yeah.
It shaped my college that I went to. It shaped my jobs that I had. You know, my best friends in the world are all wrestlers.
It's like a story that's not very uncommon because I think he's an example. I think I'm an example. Yeah. Everybody's sitting, the guys that work out there. Not that you take a chance on this, but I was 10 and you were sophomore in high school, David. I don't know how you were, but all right, I'm just trying this new sport. I did baseball and football and wrestling and soccer, and this one thing just became this avenue for life, right? And even if I wasn't working here, I'd be coaching, or to what I was doing. I assume I'd still be doing it. So it's like
it's a low bet. It's like you don't need a lot of money like a lot of the other sports to enter. And the funny thing is, there were 6 of us on the team. We had only one guy had a pair of wrestling shoes. What? So we all used to share the shoes in the wrestling match.
Come on!
I swear to God.
Come on!
I have those pair of shoes.
You're making this up.
No, we used to share the shoes.
You're gonna bring this in.
I'm gonna bring the shoes in. We used to share the shoes, and then one guy get pinned, he run off the mat, and then we have to run after him to go get the wrestling shoes. So that person could wrestle.
Come on!
We had one pair of wrestling shoes, and then sometimes the school they let us, the other teams would let us wrestle in our sneakers.
Yeah. Interesting. So when did you even find out about college wrestling? And think, maybe this is something I want to go.
It was about my senior year. I wasn't even like I said, I wasn't really paying attention to colleges. And senior year, I was talking to my advisor, Dr. Janowski, and then he's like, "Hey, Cyon, you got some good grades. What are you doing for college?" I'm like, I ain't think about it. I was going to sign up for the Army like everybody else was. I actually did sign up, except I didn't take I was going to go sign up for the Army, and then he's like, "Well, you should go to college." And I think that's where the whole mistakes. I remember watching ESPN, and the Iowa was wrestling. And that's where Iowa came into my mind. The first thing, Iowa. And then that started it. And they're like, okay. And after that, I think I got a letter from Bucknell. And then I went on a visiting trip to Bucknell. And then I was like, okay, I love wrestling. I'm going to do it.
Wow. Still trying to figure out how you thought you were signing up for Iowa, but you're actually signing up for Iowa State. You're probably talking to what is it? A guidance counselor or somebody at school. You said the doctor, whoever.
Dr. Janowski was our math. We had a program called John F. Kennedy High School called Math and Science Research, and he was head of the program. And then I was a decent student in high school. I'd like to say I was a good student.
Yeah, I bet you were a smart guy.
So he's the one I think. That's what I mean when I say things are meant to happen where it blows you in a direction. I told him Iowa. He got me the application to Iowa State. And I did not, you don't read none of that. I just said, stuck it in the mail. And then I just okay, that's it. And then they sent me a rejection letter. They didn't accept me.
Well, did you just end up going? Or did you finally get an acceptance letter?
I called them up and found out I told them it's a mistake.
You told them it was a mistake?
Yeah.
What'd they say?
It was a mistake.
It really was?
Well, it was a mistake. It was a mistake because, they didn't accept me. I got accepted to every other college except for the Iowa State. Still thinking they were the Hawkeyes.
Yeah.
So then I called up. His name was Phil Caffrey was the guy in the admissions office at Iowa State at the time.
Shout out.
Yeah.
And then I called him up. And then I was like, hey, my name is Cyon Williams. Trying to figure out why I didn't accept it. And he said, you need to be in the top 50% of your class. I'm like, I'm way above my top 50% of my class. You need to have something on your SAT. I can't even remember what it was back then.
Yeah.
I was like 300 points above what he said I needed to have. And then he goes, I don't know why you didn't get accepted. Then he goes, here it is. You don't have 4 years of history and 4 years of English. And that's because my senior year was all AP classes. So they accepted me on like what they call temporary enrollment. And that's when I got on the Greyhound and came to Iowa State. Went to Iowa State still thinking it was the Iowa. So it was temporary enrollment. You had to take 2 classes where if you get a C and above, you're allowed to continue. So I came in and I signed up for a 5-credit chemistry class and a 3-credit calculus class. I didn't go easy. All this time, which also screwed me because that also made me a full-time student, which was pretty damn expensive with no financial aid that summer because it was above the 6. So I was like, okay. So at this point now.
Still paying that off probably.
Yeah. At this point, I was like, all right, I'm going. It's like, okay, when does classes start? When do I need to come take these classes? Like in New York, high school doesn't get out until like June 28th back then.
Wow.
So I was like, there's like, classes start June 4th. And then I think your orientation was like June 2nd. Like my prom is June 2nd. So I literally went to prom, got on the Greyhound, and took the Greyhound a day and a half to get to Iowa. And you meet some pretty interesting characters riding the Greyhound bus from New York City to Iowa. Man.
Give me one example of somebody you met on the Greyhound bus that stands out to this day.
I didn't sit next to him. He sat next to me. I mean,
let's make that clear.
This guy, I mean, he just had a funk to him. It was just like, and I had to sit next to him for like 12 hours straight. And I was like, man, I was like literally sticking my nose between the front seats, like just trying to get some air from the front of me. And the Greyhound was totally packed. There's nowhere to go.
That's tough.
I got to back up for a second though, Cyon, because you told us you're on a wrestling team with 6 people on the team.
Yeah.
1 pair of wrestling shoes, but you saw Iowa on ESPN and you said, that's where I'm going to go wrestle. What made you think that you were going to be prepared to go compete in that kind of a context?
I thought I was good.
Why? Why did you think that?
Because I won some matches in New York. I thought I was good. I believed in myself.
Okay. I mean,
ignorance is bliss.
Cyon, if
I thought I was good.
If you were talking to somebody today that had your background and they told you they were going to go wrestle at Iowa, I mean, you would probably say that's not a great idea.
I'd say you're freaking crazy.
You would say you're crazy, but you believed it. Did you? I mean, did you ever look back on it and think like, man, that was crazy or what?
It was crazy, but I didn't give up. Like I told y'all somewhere before, Bobby cut me twice. Yeah. I just kept showing up. Bobby cut me from the team twice. He told me I wasn't good. I just kept showing up, and then he's like, "Man, go get your gear."
Okay, so let's get to that in a second. But I think you said you saw these sigh this, sigh that. And
yeah, it was like I think it was like about. I was doing that the first weekend when I got to campus. Like I was like, you do your orientation and you walk around and they showing you campus tours. So that's when I was walking around and they kept having like. It was since it's like a whole bunch of new students in the summer. They have those flags, welcome to Iowa State, and then it kept seeing. And then I think Iowa State had just changed the logo to that. It was still the bird, but they changed the way it looked at that time. So they were putting them everywhere, and I kept seeing those colors. And I was like, hey man, what is with that logo? Like, I thought your mascot was the Hawkeye, and I know I told this. I was like, I was the only non-Iowan in that tour group too. So it was, and I was like kind of shy walking in the background, and it was like straight out of a movie. Everybody looked at me like I was crazy.
Well, in their defense, kind of a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out.
It did work out. So, did you know, when you decided, hey, I'm going to Iowa, or what you thought was Iowa, Did you know like who Dan Gable was, or who
Nope.
Tom Brands, or
Nope.
Cale Sanderson, or nothing?
Well, Kale was still in high school back then, or probably middle school, I think.
Isn't he about the same age? How old are you?
Kale is he came in my sophomore, junior year.
Okay,
I came in with Cody. Me and Cody was the same year.
Oh gosh, you're older than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So let's get to the process of like finding the wrestling room or finding Coach, Bobby Douglas. Like, was there like open tryouts, or was there like,
No,
did you knock on the door and say, I want to be on the team? How did this work out?
When I took classes that summer, so I made some friends that summer. The dorm floor I lived in, that first year I got here, that summer I got here actually, I was ready to go home after 2 days. I'm like, this place sucks.
Why?
One, I'm from predominantly African American surrounding. I came to Iowa and it was totally different.
Yeah, I bet.
So and my roommate was a farm boy and he was like kind of weird.
He probably thought you were weird.
Yeah, true.
Weird
So
how?
I was not really feeling it, and I remember one day I was just sitting out front of the dorms, and I'm like sitting there. I'd go sit out in front of the dorms right where you could get some sun all the time, and I'd start just sitting there like I go to class, come back, and I'd sit out there for hours. And then one day, this football player Troy Davis walks up to me, man, and he's like mumbles something to me because if you know Troy, he mumbles a lot.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know, Troy.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then he's like, hey, man, I see you sitting out here every day, man. What's up? Like, man, this place sucks. I don't really like this. Cause like, hey, man, come on, man. Come on, you can hang out with me.
That's cool.
So then he turns out, the only running back to rush for 2,000 yards back-to-back season in college.
Oh.
So, I hung out with the football players that summer. He introduced me to a lot of the football players, and we all ended up living on the dorm floor. So then we all became good friends. So then school started, and then I was like, okay, wrestling tryout. They sent, one of them told me, like, hey, Cyon, the wrestling tryout's going to be this time. So I go, I show up, and once again, like I said, I'm there. I think there was like 60 or 70 people that showed up.
Wow.
And then we do a run in the stadium run, and I'm all cramping up. I'm all out of shape. And I think I was actually in full sweats too.
Cold sweats.
Not mean full like sweats.
Full sweats. Yeah,
And it was hot
sweats.
as heck outside, and everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy.
'Cause you are.
I didn't even really have running shoes. I had like a pair of sneaker boots. I was poor, man. I was poor freshman year. I had like a pair of sneaker boots on, and then I'm running, and people are looking at me like I'm crazy. And then after a while, they kept dwindling down the roster, and then Bobby cut me. Then I came back the next year, and made it all the way through up until we got to the room, and then he cut me again, and told me I could be the team manager. And I was like, all right, but I kept showing up to practice and working out. And then he's like, hey, I told you ain't got to work out. Like, all right, I'm good, coach. Kept showing up. Like 3 weeks later, he just says, hey, come here, man. It's like, I told you didn't have to practice. Like, and you just kept showing up. He's like, it looks like you're learning. Go downstairs and get your gear. You're on the team.
No way. That's awesome. How did that feel?
Felt good.
Yeah. Was that like the goal the whole time, or were you just like, I don't know, I'm just going to keep going?
I'm just going to keep going. I was like, you know what? I came this far. What I have to lose is showing up.
That's pretty awesome.
He didn't kick me out the room, so I just kept coming back. And then after that, it was all she wrote. I was around the program from then up until 2011.
Yeah, but I mean, so you obviously graduated early 2000s, I think, right? 2000, 2001? One. What'd you do for 10 years? What was your role with the program?
Became like the team manager, doing the videoing and all that for a while. And then I was also on the board of directors for the Cyclone Wrestling Club. And then we also ran the Cyclone Open, so I was the director of the Cyclone Open, doing getting every aspect of it, like volunteers to everything. We used that as a fundraiser for the club. So those was my role for most of those years, just helping out with anything they asked me to do with the team.
Sure.
Up until 2011.
Okay, and I got a photo here. I think, Tyler, if you got that photo on the screen, if you could put that up for us. So here we go. This is like probably the brain trust of the whole entire program. We've got Chris Bono, Cael Sanderson, Bobby Douglas, and maybe the most important guy on the camera there on the end, you, Cyon. There we go. Tell me about these days sitting on the bench next to those three guys.
You know, just like everybody who knows me know I had a potty mouth. So a lot of those tapes back then has a lot of cussing words on them. And it was just that bad. I had referees used to stop and come over and yell at me and tell me shut up because I used to get on the referees. I used to be cussing at them. And then I remember one day I was sitting down. I was like, we're going out there, and Bobby was like, hey guys, need y'all to be quiet. I will take care of the referees. That's my job. Then he walks over to me and goes, Cyon, keep your effing mouth shut. He's like, just keep your mouth shut.
Well, that seems like a really interesting dynamic because Chris Bono's like this little wind-up ball of energy, this little toy that's just like, very animated and active. Cael's like very stoic and like quiet and just, kind of this presence. And then Bobby, I haven't spent a lot of time around him. He seems maybe he's more on the quiet end. I'm not really sure, but can you like explain the coaching dynamic back then and how it was?
I think we had a pretty interesting staff. Like you said, Bono was. He's like one of those a jelly bean, like a jumping jelly bean in a little jar that's just bouncing nonstop all over the place. And then Cael is just it's like the jar just not moving while the jelly bean is jumping. And then Bobby, you just never know which end of the spectrum he was on. He could be quiet, and then he could be animated, and then he could go back to quiet. And then there was just me. And I was just, I don't know. I think I was the personality of the group.
Yeah. Personality is one thing you certainly have, Cyon, without a doubt. And then I think I know the story because I met you on before you were even working here. We did a trip together. But how did you get linked up with Flo? How did that work out?
After 2011, when me and Iowa State, me and coaching at Iowa State had a bitter falling out.
A bitter falling out?
Yeah, I want to hear about that.
Yeah, it was like a bitter falling out with me and the coach at the time. So then I left helping out at Iowa State, and then I was like, had nothing to do. I was out of the wrestling world, and I was concentrating on I was just going to concentrate on my regular job. I was working at Bridgestone. I think I was in accounting at the time. Before, and then either accounting or I was a production supervisor, one of those two at the time. I remember reading on the mat, and then I saw like Track Wrestling and Wrestling Video Solution had just won some grant from the NCAA for emerging sports to help promote the sport of wrestling. And then this guy named Adam Finn posted, hey, need some help with wrestling, streaming wrestling, might get to do some commentating. And then I was like, okay. So I emailed him. And then he's like, okay. Then he called me back, emailed him and sent him my resume. Then he called me back. And he's like, hey, can we meet for an interview? I was like, sure. And I lived in Des Moines, and he lived like right outside of Omaha.
Yeah.
I was like, well, where can you meet? He's like, I live in Omaha. I was like, well, actually, I said, you know what? Penn State is wrestling Nebraska. How about we meet at that match?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
So I was like, we met up at the Penn State versus Nebraska match, and he sat on the bench with the Penn State bench with us. The first time I ever met him, he gets to sit on the Penn State bench and that dude meet. And then he goes, okay, can we meet tomorrow and do the interview? So I was like, stayed in Nebraska, and it snowed like hell that night.
Uh-huh.
And then he's like, can you meet me in Omaha? So it snowed like freaking like 10 inches.
Wow.
And I was like, thinking he's going to cancel the interview at 8 o'clock in the morning.
No way, not Adam.
So I called him like at about 7, thinking the interview was canceled. Hey, are we going to push this back? He's like, oh, no, I'm already there. I'm like, oh, crap. So me get in the car because I was in Lincoln at the time.
Yeah.
Let me drive to the interview.
It's an hour away, yeah.
So that's when I sat down with him. He's like, he sets up this kit, streaming kit. He shows me how to set it up. And then I was like, okay. Then he's like, take it down. Like, do you think you could do that? I'm like, I set it back up. This first time I ever touched a Mac computer in my life. I was all just simple PC. I was like, never touched a Mac. It's like, yeah. It's like, good. Next week, I think the first event I did with him was the tournament for UNI. What's that tournament? They had what conference were they in before?
UNI they're in the MAC. They used to be
in the Western Wrestling Conference.
Western Wrestling Conference or something. We did their tournament championship, and then after that, Adam goes, "Hey, you're going to be doing D3 by yourself in Wisconsin." And then that's how it started. And then somewhere along the line, Flo bought his company, and he came on. And then I think it was like I did some things with you, Bader, like doing as a contractor for a while there.
Who is this crazy guy?
And then I think I was like, one day I was at Bridgestone, and I was like about 12 years in. I had 12 years in at the time, and I was like, I hated my job. It just wasn't for me. I liked Iowa, but I didn't like Iowa. I needed to get out of Iowa. And then I remember I texted Adam after a situation at work. I texted Adam, like, man, life is too short to hate your job and go in every day. And then Adam was like, are you serious? It's like, we don't have any job openings, but we'll make one for you. And then that's all she wrote.
Here we are. Bada boom, bada bing.
Yep.
And I don't know what it was, so I don't know whether or not you can say. What was the situation at work that made you call Adam and be like, dude, I'm done with this?
It was just union. Still, like, I was a salary employee managing a lot of union workers, and it just wasn't a good situation for my mental state. So I was like, it was time for me. I didn't think that there was a place I could grow.
Sure.
So if I didn't feel I could grow, and I felt like if I had 12 years into the company, I was like, if I get to 15 years, then I'll have to stay. I'm a lifer. And I was like, I can't go through life the rest of my career going to a job that I hate being at every day.
Without growing, sure.
Hey, I want to circle back to Iowa State for a second because,
everybody knows that story.
Well, no, I just want to not that story. Most people are around a program for 5 years as an athlete. Even a lot of coaches are not at a program for as long as you were at Iowa State. You were there over a decade. How did you see that program change, develop, grow during those years? I mean, you were there during some of the biggest years in Iowa State history.
Yeah. Bobby had a different method to how he recruited, One, he was good to the athlete. There's times he was crazy, but he was good to the athlete. And then we were on the up and up when he retired. We were on the up and up, and then Cale was also taking it in the right direction. Those first 3 years that Cale became coach, all 30 of our guys qualified for nationals. He was 3-time conference champion. He was there. He coached head coach for 3 years. So Iowa State was very much on the verge of returning to that national championship team. We had David Taylor committed. We had some good guys committed, all coming to Iowa State. And then, Penn State came in and made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably did the right thing. Obviously, they're the most dominant team of the last decade, and it's not a question.
Some days I look back and it's like, that should have been Iowa State, and I'm sure a lot of the Iowa State alumni goes, man, that should have been us. But, I don't think the support wasn't there that he was getting at Penn State, and ultimately, for wrestling programs to survive, they have to have those diehard fans, diehard support, and not just Iowa State, any college.
Yeah.
If you don't have that diehard support, you cannot survive, and you cannot be successful. You have to have the alumni that's willing to give their all, volunteer their time, do whatever they need to make sure the program grows.
What did you think, sir? When at some point you heard, hey, Cale's moving to Penn State, right? How did you hear that? When? Where were you? Do you remember, specifically, or just kind of in general?
Well, I heard when he was in Happy Valley on the interview.
Yeah.
Somebody called me and go, "Hey, Cyon, what's your boy doing in the Happy Valley?"
Really?
I know a lot of people.
Of course you do.
So I was like, okay.
Did you put it together that they were going to make him an offer?
The only reason he'd go to Happy Valley. So then, still, I don't think he was really. I don't want to speak for the man, I don't think he was really going to take the job. But then, later on he took the job, and then I remember I was at, where was I? I was at work. It was like 6 o'clock. It was the end of the shift, and I was doing my paperwork. And somebody called me. I think it was like Dwight Henson called me like, "Hey, see, you hear? Kale took the job." And I was like, "No." I was like, "Oh, I was like, it was one of those things like hit you, boom,
Yeah.
like, oh, shit. Like, man, like, nah, he's going to change his mind. He's going to change his mind. It's like, are we going to keep Cody or Casey? I was hoping we kept one of them, you know. It's like, but that didn't happen. And then we like Penn State, like, man. Because I think Iowa State going into the next year was also the front runner for the national title that year too.
I mean, they were definitely on the come up, and they were obviously a very strong team.
Because that's the year. The next year, Gallic got hurt. You know, you lost Gallic. Rita gets a concussion in the finals. We lost Kyler. I think Iowa State finished like second. Like, yeah, we definitely the front runner if we had a full team that year.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think, what was Kale, the head coach for 2 or 3 years at Iowa State? 3. What did you see with him as a head coach that maybe was different from Bobby? Because like you said, there's something he's doing. It's magical because Iowa State was, like you said,
Kale,
taking home trophies.
He has a love for the sport, and he translates that same love to all his athletes have that love for the sport. And he's all about having and making it fun.
Yeah. So
I think all his guys are having fun, and they're not just thinking, they're not going out there just trying to perform and just trying to beat themselves down and be out there mentally broke. So I think, in my opinion, like I said, I don't speak for anybody. In my opinion, these guys are having fun, and if they're having fun, they'll go out there and win. Winning will come if you're having fun.
Go ahead.
That's because a lot of kids don't have that burnout.
How do you foster that environment? Because everybody wants it to not be so a pressure cooker, which a lot of college wrestling is. No matter where you go, right? People just do it to themselves. And maybe coaches add fuel to that fire. I don't know, but was it the way he talked to the athletes? Was it the way he structured practice? Was it something else? Was it an intangible?
I think it's all those aspects right there. I know he structures practice differently, you know. I see a lot of schools now playing these games before practice and everything. I think Kale started that there where he stayed literally like all those. He started at Iowa State. We never used to do that. That was the warm up, and I think now I see all these schools doing that. What he started, you know, he doesn't have like a full. Everybody has to be in the restroom at a certain time. He structured it a little differently. Give people more one-on-one coaching, and allow them to develop. He also, you know, talks to the guys about living life the right way. You know. He's not about the big parties.
Right.
But and his guys, for the most part, stay out of trouble. In today's age of social media, kids are just all over the place. Thank God social media wasn't around. Facebook wasn't around when I was in college. Good Lord.
Because why?
Yeah.
Cyon?
I think it would have been a very bad thing.
Did you really cause that much trouble? I don't believe
I think social media would have been a very bad thing.
Fair enough. Another, and we're getting close to the end of the line here. One more thing I want to touch on is like Cyon the recruiter. Everybody I've talked to, and a lot of successful people was like, yeah, Cyon hosted me on my recruiting trip. Freaking John Jones came to the Flow HQ 5 years ago, and he's like, oh, Cyon, what's up? I know Cyon. He hosted me on a recruiting trip at Iowa State. What kind of recruiter were you, and why did they give you these big recruits?
Because, you know, Cyon, I always like, you know, I go to the bars. I always say, like, hey, we're going to the bars. Like, oh, man, there's a long line. Like, Cyon doesn't do lines. Like, I used to, like, you know, go to the bars. The bartenders knew me.
Yeah.
I go to the bars with $2 and leave the bar with $2, and I'll still be pretty drunk. I go to the fraternities, like Heskin always tells the story how everybody in the team referred to me as the universal frat brother. All the frat guys all knew me. I knew all the combination to get into every fraternity house because there's a party, I'm there.
Uh-huh.
I'd show up with a group. So then people is like, hey, we got recruits in Cyon. Where we going this week tonight? Well, actually, I was staying home. Like, come on, where we going?
Social coordinator.
So I used to always get everybody together, head out. We had house parties, you know. There's a party, the big parties was at our house. Cyon, we're throwing a party. It's at your house. Like, all right. Other wrestling teams are coming to town after the match. Like, hey, man, people said to call Cyon. Like,
yep.
All right, I got y'all. So I used to basically, I was the social chair.
Absolutely.
So Kale, you said Kale. When he coaches, he's like teaching the guys like, hey, the big party is not the thing. Live life the right way. But you're the opposite. You're already explaining. You're the life of the party. How do you guys get along so well?
He accept me for who I am. And I didn't get in trouble. Well, I didn't really get in trouble. Well, I think, another good thing is I didn't have a driver's license in college. I didn't know how to drive, so I didn't have to worry about drinking and driving.
Yeah.
I didn't get my driver's license until I was 24. That's the first time I learned how to drive. So I didn't have to worry about that. I think if I had a driver's license, I probably would have been one of those idiots that was drinking and driving. And at the same time, I didn't do the stupid things. Sure, I was the life of the party, and I had a lot of parties, but I always kept it under control.
Right.
A few times you slap a few people around, but you still kept it under control. But yeah.
All
right. On to the little segment. I don't know if you were listening when we played this game with Victoria, our last guest, but wins and whoopings. So of your wrestling career from high school through and all matches you wrestled in college, is there one win that stands out as very memorable and one loss as like kind of deflating when you just really get your butt kicked and it's like, yeah, that's...
I had to go back to high school because I didn't have that many good wins in college.
Fair enough.
I think it was the Lehman kid. I was whooping him real bad, actually. And then I was actually even sick today, and I was whooping him. And then he cement mixered me and pinned me. So, remember, I marked that on the calendar. Revenge. Revenge. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to rip his legs off, I'm going to beat him with it. I was so upset. I was like, and then I think the match was like about 3 months later. It was like, revenge, revenge. I just big bold letters like revenge. And I went out there, and I was sick again. But I didn't whoop him as bad as I want to.
But you got it.
But I got the win. And then I found out after that they had to forfeit the match because they let him wrestle because he was ineligible. It was right. But I still got my win.
I'm glad they let him wrestle.
Every story with Cyon has some weird twist to it.
Yeah.
Like, I got the whooping, but it didn't even actually count because he was knowledgeable. But what happened on the mat happened on the mat.
Yeah,
right?
I'm glad you got the crack at him.
And then, like I said, I guess my first college match, I also got whooped real bad. I lost 19-4. It was against Brandon Slay, the first match of the Cyclone Open.
You drew Brandon Slay?
First match of the Cyclone Open freshman year.
Did you know who he was?
No. It was his senior year, and he was, I was wrestling down at what weight class was that, 77? And it was him, and then it was him, and I think it was Matter on the other side of the bracket. I lost to him in the first round, and then him and Matter ended up being co-champs because Matter upset Barry Weldon on the other side of the bracket. And him and Slay were co-champs at the Open.
Hey, co-champs. Okay. I don't think they do that very often anymore.
No, they were teammates though, because
Oh, okay.
And I think Slay was end up dropping down to 67, and Matter stayed at 77.
Fair enough. Cyon, this has all been some very fascinating, all over the place. We are right down to the end of the hour. We'll give you the final word. Any parting words you might want to leave us with before we let you go?
It is February. The only parting word,
Yeah.
It is Black History Month. There's a lot of iconic black history people out there that motivated you. I want to also thank Bobby Douglas. Is a great motivator to me as a coach and somebody to look up to coming into college, because there's lots of times even in college I wanted to go to the wrong direction, and Bobby was always there to push me back to the right direction. So as Black History Month, that's one of those icons in the sport I'd like to say thank you very much for.
Cool.
Awesome.
And actually, to that point, what does Black History Month mean to you, and how important is it to you?
Growing up young, I like to say I was naive, that it wasn't really pushed like Black History Month when I was younger. But as I got older, I got wiser, they say, so it means a lot to me because there's a lot of people out there that's very influential that provide, I do a lot of reading now, I'd like to say in my younger days, I would have been a Malcolm X by any means necessary. And now I'm I look back, I'm more like a Malcolm King, do things the right way to get what you need done, because the by any means necessary could lead you in the wrong direction. But at the same time, I always thought those two balanced each other to get the end goal. So it means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the younger people. The younger people nowadays, they need more education, and with internet and with everything out there, they're able to learn a whole lot more than I did when I was younger. But it's one of those things that it's very important to the culture, and sometimes I do think we need to do more to celebrate it. But it's something that it's being worked on as a country. As I don't even think we really do it much in Jamaica, so it's not a worldwide holiday yet. But someday I'd like to see it as a worldwide holiday.
Awesome. Well, Cyon, I appreciate the time. We're right down to the noon hour, but thanks for being with us and sharing your story. It's always a pleasure.
All right.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Have a great day.
Later.
All right. And there you have it. End of the line. But Victoria Francis opened it off. Cyon Williams closes it down. Great way to start the week.
That was great. Yeah, always good to talk to Cyon, and excited about Captain's Cup coming up and Victoria's team along with the other 5 teams.
Yeah. That's going to do it for David Bray. I'm Mark Bader. We'll be back at the same bat time tomorrow. See you guys.